Welcome to the Little Birdie magazine. Today we're chatting with Varun Pinto from Ray White Julie Mahani. So this month, the first month, the launch month, Varun is our first agent up for an agent profile. Welcome, Varun.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. You went to great efforts to ensure we could actually sample some of the wines from the wines reviews we're doing this month, but absolutely perfect. Cheers to you.
Cheers to us.
Now, Varun, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know that you are not a traditional real estate agent at all. You have a slightly different background.
I'm not a traditional real estate agent, though I did have a background. My dad owns a construction and real estate company, so I did grow up with a little bit of real estate background. I went out to sea when I was 19. I did that for about 17 years. On and off. I started off on different type of ships as a cadet, and then I worked my way up. Had my master's license, captain's license, and COVID struck. Stuck at sea for 8 months. Wasn't fun.
For anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when I decided, it's time for a change. I'll come back home, enjoy a bit of life on the land more than sea, and that's when I've always had the passion for real estate. So yeah.
What made you choose Townsville?
So when I got off the ship in 2019, I had to do my COVID quarantine period, and I did that in Brizzy because I got off the ship in South Korea. I was stuck there. Melbourne closed the airport, and so I couldn't fly back. That's where we lived before we moved to Townsville. And my only option to fly back into Australia was into Brisbane. And so I flew into Brisbane, did my 14 days hotel quarantine there. While I was doing my hotel quarantine, I happened to call up a friend of mine I've known since my kiddie days. He lives in Townsville. Bob was on the way. They had just bought a house, and he said, we haven't met for a while, so why don't you fly into Townsville? Let's catch up. You can help with the Bob and the move as well. I said, absolutely, perfect. Came to Townsville, loved it. Absolutely fell in love with Townsville. It reminded me a lot of the city I grew up in.
Where was that?
It's in India. It's a coastal city, very similar to Townsville. It's called Mangalore.
It's quite weird because Townsville reminds me of the Middle East and the Mediterranean and the coast along the Mediterranean in the Middle East, and it's funny that it's that sort of city, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
You just go, this just feels like home.
Absolutely, it absolutely felt like home. Melbourne was home, but there was something about Townsville. The energy in Townsville was very strong. It just drew me to Townsville, and while I spent my time here, those 2-3 weeks that I was here, absolutely fell in love with Townsville. I had a chat with my wife. Liv said, you know what, let's give it a shot.
Yeah.
Give it a couple of years. At that point, I wasn't sure if I want to go back to sea or take a show job. I did try. I did give it a shot. Things didn't really materialize in the show job. And Liv's business told her, you know what, it really doesn't matter. You're working from home anyways. So we thought we'll give it a couple of years.
Yeah, and it's a good thing, isn't it? Because you can travel in and out of Townsville pretty easily, because Liv heads out of Townsville for work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fairly consistently. And
she does. So she flies back to Melbourne every month to meet her clients.
Yeah.
And since she still works for her Melbourne-based office, she still flies back every month to meet her clients, works from home. So it worked out brilliantly. We thought we'll give it 2 to 5 years and then decide what we want to do. But a year later, we ended up buying a house. So we're stuck here now.
and did a few renovations, and you're still doing some, I hear.
We did. Yeah, so that's an ongoing process with a Queenslander.
Yeah.
I never had seen a Queenslander until I moved to Townsville.
Of course, being in Melbourne.
Absolutely. But the character of a Queenslander really attracted me to a Queenslander. So yeah.
Have you had many friends come up and sort of grasp what their views of sort of even the property market up here is like, and the lifestyle up here? So
absolutely. So a couple of months ago, friends of ours from Melbourne made a trip to Queensland or Townsville, and they absolutely loved it. They loved it. They've got kids, so it's a little difficult to make the move, but they were with us for about 5 to 6 days, and they were actually considering moving to Townsville.
I think everybody that comes here considers it.
Yeah, the balance is great.
Yeah.
The lifestyle, the balance is so great, because in Melbourne, they're across on the other side, on the western side, and we are in the eastern suburbs. So even to get to the other side, it takes us an hour back, an hour to get to them. So you're losing 2 hours in distant commute. So
Yeah.
while here, it's so much more easier. The impromptu catch-ups during the week, the weekend catch-ups, it's great.
Even
People
with family saving, I used to travel 2 hours each way in Sydney. And
There
you
you
just
go.
think, what's that for 14 hours a week that you instantly save?
Absolutely.
To give you more time. The other thing, like one of the reasons our paths crossed too is apart from, the family business when we were building and stuff.
Yep.
It's also that you're a passionate lover of food and wine. And
Absolutely,
so how
yeah.
have you found the wine and food scene here?
Great.
Maybe not so much wine. I think there's only one actual winery located in Townsville, in the Townsville region. But
Yeah, but the food it's great. It's absolutely great. Coming from Melbourne, we are food lovers, and we
Yeah.
love our wine. And while there are no wineries close by that we are aware of,
there is one.
there's one. All right.
I haven't made it to them yet. I'm sure we're going to get them in
Excellent.
the magazine. One of the editions soon. We're going to bring them in. So
Perfect.
this is a Queensland wine, but it's not from here. So
All right. Okay. No, we absolutely loved our food and wine in Melbourne. We did try quite a few restaurants in Melbourne. In fact, the suburb we lived in had this really nice street. It's called Glen Huntley Street, and it was lined with bars and cafes. We were not too far from Chapel Street, which had a string of restaurants and cafes and bars. So when we moved to Townsville, that was one of the things we were hesitant about. Oh, we're not going to enjoy the same lifestyle. We're not going to enjoy the same food and culture.
But I see you guys on socials all the time.
We love the food here. There's some really great restaurants. I mean,
Yeah.
the service here, the people are so warm. The food here it's really good. There are more restaurants and cafes opening up.
All the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, favourite restaurant. Absolute favourite. Don't be political. Favourite restaurant.
Favorite restaurant, Show House.
Shore House.
I absolutely.
It's a lot of birdies for Shore House.
Absolutely. I absolutely love Show House. It's not just because it's a combination of factors when you are at a restaurant. It's the service, it's the food, it's the variety, it's the location, and Show House ticks every box easily.
But you have to book.
Absolutely.
I remember pre-COVID, you could almost get in without booking. For some reason, post-COVID, you cannot get in without a booking. Look, I've almost missed a booking because I thought it was for 4:15 or something. I got on a Sunday. It was the only availability, and we got there at 4:45 because I thought it was 4:30. But
Absolutely.
but it's vibes. It's a great place
It's
to
a
eat.
great place. It's an absolutely fabulous place. The location is definitely a highlight.
Yeah.
And we love our cocktails. Liv and I love our cocktails.
The Maverick.
Oh,
Maverick?
it's a chili Rita for us.
Oh, okay.
We've been
I'm
there
a
so
Maverick
often,
girl.
so when we sit down, they don't even ask what our drinks order is going to be because they know it's going to be chili Rita. That's what we always order, chili Ritas,
Yeah.
and the food is just amazing. So
Well, interestingly, I don't bother with wine when I'm there. I just have like a couple of Mavericks
Yeah.
because they come with the champagne shooter.
Right.
So it wins hands down as one of my favourites without a question. Now let's talk about the property market a little bit.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons for doing the agent profiles is for people to see that real estate agents can be real people, and a really good agent is an absolute asset to you if you are selling or buying a home. So,
Absolutely.
what do you think are some of the qualities that you actually bring to the industry, to help make a little bit of a change to some of that reputation and perception?
So when I came into this industry a little over 14 months ago, it was very important for me to land in the right business. So I started with a different business at the time. It was with Reva Townsville. And I think it's very important where you start, the values that are instilled in you from the start, and the values that you have grown up with, or the values that you build up over a period of time. Not everyone is born with values. It's something that you develop with people, surrounded by people around you, or your friends, family, and the people you work with. So, and what was really important for me was those values, and I think being transparent, honest, and humble. I think is very, very important. It's not just for real estate industry. I think for any industry I believe in, it's very, very important to be honest, transparent, and humble. Because there are a lot of scams out there. There are a lot of real estate agents or agents out there who try to scam buyers or sellers. That's something I strongly oppose.
And that's why I have you here today, because you have an enormous amount of integrity. And I agree with you. I have done a short stint as a real estate agent too, because I love the property market. I love the idea of renovating.
Yeah.
I'm always saying my belief is the market here is still undervalued. What do you think? One of the things that confuses me sometimes a little bit, I guess, is that some of the people in the real estate industry don't actually understand the real estate industry. And I'm not sure if some do, I'm not saying it's the same everywhere, but that idea that you've come from a metropolitan market into a regional Queensland market, and what does that look like for you? Like from an understanding perspective, I know in metro cities, watching property markets is almost a pastime of everyone, right? Because between capital growth or whether you've got an investment portfolio or whatever it may be, you have your eye on the market in some fashion. I've found because it's slumped here for so long, but in the last 3 years it's definitely picked up, and in some of the lifestyle areas here it's more than doubled since the lows, which has actually taken it back up to those prices pre 2007. Yeah. Well, even before that, like pre 2007.
Right.
So just when prices were high again and people thought it was a bubble. What's your take on what sustains the real estate industry here to continue growing rather than to fall behind like it might in some of the metro cities?
Infrastructure. I think the key is infrastructure. For any city to develop, the infrastructure is key, because of what we're seeing right now in Townsville is there's so much of infrastructure that's going around. There's a lot of money being pumped in for infrastructure. It's pipelines, roads, transportation, everything. That's, I think, so important. And now we see the style cranes around Townsville everywhere. There are like 3 or 4 in Townsville at the moment, and they always say the more cranes you see in a city, the better signs of development. It's
I've never heard that, but it's true. It's
true.
I guess
it's true.
Yeah.
So the port expansion, the dredging, they're going to get bigger ships into port. And I think when I came to Townsville last year and I drove around the port and I drove around some of the warehouses, I could see there's so much of potential. That's one of the factors that really attracted me to Townsville. I wanted to be part of a growing city. Melbourne's a big city. It is a metro city, so it's right up there, So, but
sorry about the plan.
That's all right. I'm sorry.
Is that backdrop today before our sets come?
So Townsville was a growing city, and I noticed that at the time when I came here and visited Townsville in 2020. So, and I can still see it growing. It's moving out. You see even the bigger cities. Well, let's take where I lived for 10 years in Melbourne. It was so saturated in the city, they had to expand. They had to move out. Yeah. So they started building the new suburbs and the new townships, the rail connectivity. So that was key, and that's something similar we're seeing in Townsville at the moment. We're seeing the northern beaches being developed. We're seeing the road expansions. The connectivity is improving. Cutting short on travel time, and many a times it's buyers or people who are hesitant to move away because of the commute time. While in Townsville, because of the road expansion, and it's not populated, it's still, there's so much of land available, there's so much of scope available in Townsville that people can still, and people are recognizing the value of Townsville. They're seeing the potential Townsville has.
And there are beautiful homes here too, right?
Stunning.
So that's one of the other things that surprised me a little bit, I guess. It is a city bursting with opportunity. It's a city bursting with lifestyle.
Absolutely.
But it's almost like we're not good at sharing that story through everywhere.
True.
And I guess that's one of the opportunities I see here. There are some beautiful lifestyle properties, some seaside suburbs that are in the city, that
Absolutely.
I remember when I first got here, I was warned against, oh no, that's too far out of town. We're talking about Palarenda.
Yeah.
It's like 5 minutes down the road with beautiful beaches all along it. You see sea life in the ocean constantly. And crocodiles, I guess. I was a bit afraid of crocodiles,
Yeah.
but you know, I've gotten over that now. And the nets are about to come out again. Probably actually by the time this goes online, the nets will be out. So I guess what's your take too on people relocating? What's your advice? Like, I mean, I've come across a lot of people who, you know, are sick of the city life, but they're afraid to move. They're worried about crocodiles and stingers, or you know, they don't think they can have the same lifestyle up here that you can in the metro cities.
All right, let me just
Did
compare.
I put you on the spot?
No, I'll go back to Melbourne, right? It's got beaches. Now,
Cold though.
it's cold. Exactly. It's cold almost throughout the year. You have 3 or 4 days where it gets a bit warm and then it gets really cold again. We lived literally 10 minutes walk from the beach.
Yeah.
And we can count the number of times you were at the beach.
It's
beautiful.
Same in Sydney.
Absolutely. It's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning beaches. It's a bay though, you know, it's not the open beaches, it's the bay. Whilst we lived so close to the beach in towns in Melbourne, we find ourselves walking along the Strand more often than we did. In fact, my downtime when I've had a really hectic week or a busy week, I go to Rose Bay.
Me too.
That's where, wow, okay,
And I
haven't
have
seen you
my
there.
little spot that I sit. There's one little hut way away from everybody else, and I go and sit there and look at the ocean and
That's
Magnetic
exactly
Island.
what I do. That's exactly what I do. Growing up in the city in Mangalore, there was a breakwater very close to the port.
Yeah.
That's where I would go a day before my exams or my school exams. I would go and sit there for an hour.
Yeah.
I would just sit there, calm myself down, and then go back home. And again, it was a small city, so it was a 10-minute drive, 15-minute drive. I would go and sit there. So I do the same thing now. Being at sea as well, when I was a chief mate, so we do the 4 to 8 watch, so 4 to 8 in the morning, 4 to 8 in the evening. That's a navigation watch. That was my favorite time because I would get to see the sunset and the sunrise.
Yeah.
2 favorite times of the day for me. So
And they're stunning here in Townsville, aren't they?
they are absolutely
really
stunning.
are.
The skies are beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. So I still keep going down to Rose Bay, park my car there, kick my shoes off, dig my toes into the sand. Oh, it feels so good.
Yeah, and it's got you don't have a dog, but there's an off-leash dog beach down there too, which is fantastic sometimes in the morning. Let's talk about the white elephant in the room, the weather.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about you, but I believe that the weather here is unbelievable for everything but about 3 or 4 weeks of the year. And any other city I've lived in, there's a whole lot more time where the weather's unpalatable. What's your take on the weather up here? So people say it's too hot. Rarely do we say it's too cold, although I think this year, you know, we pushed the limits a little bit on it being chilly in the mornings. So
The best time of the year is, you know, at the moment. And a few weeks ago, it's cold, but it's not so cold that you can't step out of the house. You
I don't
have
know. There were a few mornings I considered buying a beanie.
Wow.
So-
Okay. I haven't had to wear a hoodie in Townsville as yet. Probably.
Maybe you haven't climatized yet. I don't know.
I probably, having been at sea, been to -20, -25 degrees. If it gets down to 10 degrees or 15 degrees, it's still pretty normal. So
but
it's
you'll
not too
soften.
bad.
You'll soften like the rest of us. I've had 3
Probably
summers
will.
here,
Probably
3
will.
winters.
I've been told.
This one really actually.
There were a couple of really chilly nights this time in Townsville, though.
Thought so
Yeah,
too.
especially it was, I think, June.
Yeah.
There were some really cold nights.
Yeah.
I did find myself going to the deck and
still 10
jumping
or
back.
15 degrees warmer than most of Australia.
True.
But for Townsville people, you get used to this stunning weather. What about the heat? So the opposite end, the heat. How do you? I mean, you've come from Melbourne, so it's cool.
I still struggle.
Do you struggle?
I struggle with the heat.
That's what aircon's for.
I agree, but that's a good thing about aircon. So, being in real estate, we need to have an esky ready with a nice cold towel and a cold pack because it can get really hot because you're standing outside, not necessarily indoors all the time. you're standing outside and you're jumping from one property to the next property for open homes. The weekends especially, that's when it gets quite challenging. So the moment
Yeah,
I
true.
step out of the car, I start the aircon on, keep it ready, keep it running. It runs for 30 minutes. So when I step back into the car, it's ready. It's nice and cool again. So I think that has been really, really helpful. One of the
Perfect.
best features of the car is you can turn the aircon remotely and keep it cool before you get back into the car. So that
What sort of
works.
car do you have? We might have to review it.
Probably will.
More people in towns will probably need to know, but I don't know, my car doesn't do that. And
No,
it's
it's-
black.
No, it's really useful. It's come in quite handy, to be honest. It does get pretty hot, and I'm still yet to get climatized to Townsville heat. The other days are fine, but again, having said that, it's just a few weeks of the year. The rest of the days, it's beautiful. It's just perfect. It's amazing. You can just walk out. You don't have to
Yeah.
worry about it. You don't have to wake up every morning and check the weather. Melbourne, you cannot leave the house without checking the weather.
Yeah, and an
You have
umbrella and a
You need
cool
to-
pack and
Absolutely.
all seasons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
While in Townsville, you can do that.
Okay.
You know, you can step out and it gets a bit cold. It'll be fine. It's not too bad.
Just as a final thing, what would you say? How would you entice people to actually come and chat with you about real estate, either to, get an appraisal or to look at buying a property? Why would they come to you?
I'll give you a very honest feedback. It doesn't matter whether you're a buyer or a seller. I'm a selling agent. I'm not a buyer's agent, but I've had a lot of calls from investors from down south. I've been talking to a lot of buyers from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and everyone wants to know what the market in Townsville is like. Not only that, they want to know what is Townsville all about. Time is one of the most important things. I believe a lot of people are not willing to give that time to a buyer or a seller to tell them this is what's happening, this is what Townsville is all about. While we cannot forecast what's going to happen in 3 to 6 months from now, we can give them reality. Tell the sellers the truth. What's happening in the market. Many sellers want to know what their property will sell for. The reality is, we agents are not buying your property. We as agents are there to be a median to help them get the best outcome for the property. And that's exactly what my role is. And that's what I strongly believe in. I have spoken to a lot of sellers who have asked me, no, I just want to know what my property will sell for. I'm here to tell you what I can do to meet your expectation, to match your expectation or to beat it. I will give you every resource, and I will give you every value that I have, and I'll give you my hard work to get you what you are after. But what your property will sell for is the price the buyers are willing to pay, and at what price the sellers are willing to let go. That's what decides the value of the house. I'm not there to tell you what your property is worth, because what your property is worth is very different for a buyer and an owner.
Well, what's the single most important thing that you think a seller needs to do with their house before actually opening it up for inspections?
Presentation. Presentation is key to selling a house, because we all know at the moment the cost of logistics, cost of material, shortage of supplies, cost of labor has absolutely skyrocketed. The demand right now is really high for turnkey properties. Presentation is key. If there's a few things that you can fix at a lower cost, you might as well do it before bringing it to the market, because buyers' perception of cost is definitely exaggerated.
And even the availability of tradespeople, right?
Most importantly. So if there are those few things that you can fix to present your property well, I think presentation is absolutely key. And I think secondly is bringing your property to the market at the right price range. That is absolutely crucial.
So tell me, you've recently come here, but were also very recently named as one of the rookies of the year in the real estate industry. So you've had a very short career here, but done extremely well. How have you gone?
The support, the team that I worked with, the support that I got, the training, and I think that was the mentorship that I received through that period of time. was the reason for my success. I couldn't have done it without the mentorship and the support that I received from the start of my career. I'm still receiving it. I have a long way to go. I still tell everyone I'm an absolute toddler in the business, and there are some absolute giants out there, and I think there's plenty of fish in the sea to work with. So
are you planning to become a grandparent of the business, the industry?
I'm
not suggesting anything, but you know, like
I think I've got a good momentum going. I don't want to lose out on it. I'm working with an absolute fabulous team at the moment, very supportive, very encouraging. The amount I'm getting to learn at the moment is incredible, and I've got a 5-year plan or a 10-year plan that I've got in place, and it just involves being successful. It's success for me. Money is just being a byproduct of success. I'm always achieving or striving towards success, and that's always been one of the values I've strongly believed in. And I've always told myself, money is just a byproduct of success. I just want to do the right thing and keep the momentum going.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Varun. Really value you coming into our new little studio here to actually have a bit of a chat. We look forward to this actually being launched for the 1st of October, and it might be by the time we actually get there. And I think we'll say goodbye. Thank you, Varun.
Thank
and
you.
we might finish off some more of this Storm King wine before our wine reviewer gets a chance to try it.
Quite surprised that we finished the interview before we could get to the second glass.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.